So, if I were to sum up how I feel about Germany right now, I would say it is concerned. The cultural tides have shifted in the last few years, and so in this video I would really like to discuss how the cultural tides have shifted and what it is actually like to live here. We are going to touch on the job market, the cost of living, the political climate, and why your situation is probably better than you think it is. Now, if we just take this minuscule microcosm of the Living in Germany space on YouTube, which we are all a part of, things are very different now than they were just 3 years ago. Now, I've been making videos on this channel for almost 3 years now, and when I first started, the type of videos that were popular were all overwhelmingly positive. They praised Germany and gushed over how amazing it is to live here, not just videos from foreigners living in Germany, but also country comparison channels, geopolitics sites, and economic think tanks. And especially if I compare this current zeitgeist to 2011, when I first moved here, the country is completely changed. There used to be this consensus that Germany is the powerhouse of Europe with a robust economy, a stable job market, efficiency in all areas of life, high quality products, and just generally really good prospects. However, recently the YouTube space seems to have moved closer to the mainstream, more negative narrative with things like Germany is doomed, population collapse, Germany is on the brink of destruction, with these kind of things going viral and getting a lot of traction. And on a more serious note, I am increasingly getting questions about what it feels like to live here, and more specifically, if people are worried about the war in Ukraine spilling over, if people are worried about the rise of the right and a return to Nazism. So the mood has changed quite drastically. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly when this mood changed, but I would say 2015, 2016 were really the catalyst years. And by the way, if you're new here and you're expecting a one-sided polarizing hot take, this video is going to be really disappointing and probably quite confusing for you. So much of what I'm going to discuss here could be applied to many other countries, but I think it's different in Germany for several reasons, which I'll get into in a minute. So 2016, Germany had a record year in terms of exports and economic growth, and since then the economy has kind of just been stagnant. But the key year, in my opinion, was 2015. This was the year of austerity and countless meetings surrounding Greece and Germany, with questions being raised about whether the EU and the euro is really still feasible. And many Germans felt like they were funding the livelihoods of people who had a fundamentally different attitude to life, and one that did not involve fiscal responsibility. Now, on top of that, 2015 was the year of the migrant crisis, when Germany welcomed in over 1 million immigrants, and the vast majority of them being asylum seekers. This was met with resistance at the time, and these feelings haven't really dissipated. The scale and intensity made it really hard for Germany to cope, and public services have come under strain. Now, if you are gesetzlich versichert or publicly insured and live in a large city, then getting a doctor's appointment can really take months. Obviously, if you're privately insured, that's a different matter. But the problem is exacerbated by Germany's immigration laws and bureaucracy. Asylum seekers are not actually allowed to work while their application and status is being processed. And because of the scale of asylum seekers, this means that some applications are caught in a backlog and can take up to a year, sometimes even longer, to process. So this really does appear to be a lose-lose situation. People are stuck in processing, they can't return home, they can't start a new life, and so this leads to frustrations on both sides. On top of that, there is also the development of what some are calling a two-tiered system in the German labour market, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But during the application process, asylum seekers can be supported by the state. They get housing, allowance and other kind of benefits like free language courses, and this obviously breeds further resentment, not just from Germans but also other immigrants who are trying to integrate. And all this resentment is stoked by the fact that the cost of living is rising and people just feel cheated by the system. The political situation is heating up and things seem to be developing quite rapidly. So the CDU party, who previously stated they would never work together with the AfD, seem to have worked in collaboration with them in order to get new stricter immigration laws pushed through. This has caused uproar in Germany as political tensions increase, and there are a lot of comparisons being made between now and the conditions which led to the rise of Hitler. So immigration, the cost of living, austerity, and the feeling that the government is prioritizing everything but the German people is kind of leading to a lot of tension in society right now. Immigration is a big topic, but in many ways, I feel like this is kind of a bit of deja vu. You know, the argument for Brexit was immigration. Obviously, there were wider questions around national sovereignty, but the main issue was to reduce immigration. And now, 8 years on, it seems to have had the opposite effect. Immigration has actually increased year on year since 2016. And not only that, but Brexit ensured a decrease of European immigration and an increase of immigrants from the Middle East and Africa, the exact opposite of what Brexiteers were promising. And, you know, anti-immigration sentiment almost always increases in times of economic uncertainty. Now, the economic situation is challenging, which is why the number one concern for Germans at the moment is actually not immigration, it is the cost of living. And that the cost of living is of grave concern shouldn't really come as a surprise. I mean, it's similar across many other European countries at the moment, but it's actually different in Germany given the history of this place, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But there is this feeling that you just can't get ahead. You know, there is this pervading sense that no matter how hard you work, even if you get a promotion or a salary increase, your money just doesn't get you what it used to. Price increases paired together with a decrease in the quality, you know, just makes affording a good standard of living much harder. And I get it, you know, I've noticed this as well. Everything from household goods to travel to subscription services, everything is getting more expensive. And it doesn't help when economists or financial analysts try to convince us that inflation has decreased. The fact of the matter is that everyone is trying to squeeze out as much as possible. And you notice this in the supermarkets with shrinkflation. Companies are packaging smaller portions while charging more for them. And it just also doesn't help when people point out that we have never been richer before. We all have smartphones, laptops, cars, things that would have been seen as luxuries by those just 20 years ago. And even if you can't articulate it fully or understand why, I'm sure you felt that your money just doesn't go as far as it used to. And part of the reason that we feel our money just gets us less than it used to is, well, because it does. The inflation of the money supply through money printing means that money loses its value over time. And in this environment, savers are punished. And, you know, Germans being notorious savers, I think, are noticing this quite acutely. And it's not enough to just store your money away under the mattress. We have to invest it in something to help it retain its value. And it doesn't really matter what you do, how you start, but the important thing is that you take responsibility and find ways to ensure that the little money that you do have is put to use. And one of the ways that I am doing this is with N26. I've been a customer with them since 2019. And initially I actually signed up because I was looking for just something like really simple and easy and free. My other bank account started charging me monthly fees, and because I do everything online already, this just seemed like it was throwing money away. And so, you know, it is the first mobile bank to obtain a full German banking license through the BaFin. And so it provides secure and innovative banking solutions. But not only that, N26 is consistently adding new features and services like spaces to track and organize your spending, automations to make your money work for you. And as of right now, under the investments tab, you can actually buy and sell stocks and ETFs for free. There's zero fees and zero commissions. So I'm really happy to be working together in partnership with N26 because it's really the perfect mobile bank combining banking, savings, and investments all in one place. And I am personally extremely risk averse. And so for me, I find that just investing small amounts every month is really one of the simplest and most effective ways to build a little bit of wealth over time. And N26 even gives you suggestions about which ETFs to invest in based on your risk tolerance. So click the link in the description below to download the app and use my promo code BRITINGERMANY20 for a €20 starting bonus. Sign up below and do not let the hidden tax of money printing eat your worth away. Now, the thing to understand here is that the way you feel does not always reflect reality. And one of the reasons why we feel that we're getting poorer is relative deprivation. This is built off social comparison theory. So just look up Leon Festinger if you want to dig into sort of the academic side of this. But if you don't want to do that, just look at how social media industrial complex works. Humans are social creatures, which means we compare ourselves to others. Relative deprivation occurs when individuals or groups perceive themselves as worse off compared to others, even in the context of absolute improvement in their own situation. So even if you yourself are getting richer and your standard of living is rising, there is probably someone out there who's getting richer quicker than you, and this affects us all psychologically. But it's not just that in Germany. Germany has, for the last few decades, been obsessed with stability. Both as a country and also on an individual level, stability and certainty is something which is heavily ingrained in the culture. Germans are really notorious savers. They do not like going into debt. And unlike most other countries with central banks, Germany has come under intense criticism because it is one of the few countries that is not leveraging debt to grow the economy, at least not to the same extent. The stable and secure job market has always been a major pull for people to come and get their work-life balance here, but the cultural, social, and economic conditions have changed. The world is not stable. AI and technological developments make it very difficult to know what to invest in and where to place your focus. No one knows which industries will still be around in 20 years' time, and so it's really a time of intense insecurity and instability. German engineering and things like the automotive industry, which just even 15 years ago were hailed as unparalleled, is already coming under threat from the developed world, and changes that we face now are just really very different than they were 10 years ago. And one alarming trend that has come under scrutiny over the past couple of decades is the job market in Germany. Many are warning against a two-tiered system and the development of a social underclass. The so-called gig economy in Germany is characterized by flexible, short-term, and often precarious employment arrangements, which includes things like mini-jobs, Zeitarbeit, and platform-based work. Now, these employment reforms have grown significantly since the early 2000s, driven mainly by legislative changes and economic pressures. Mini-jobs were formally institutionalized in 2003 as part of the Hartz reforms under Chancellor Gerhard Schröder's government, and they were introduced to encourage employment in sectors like retail, hospitality, and caregiving, and to provide opportunities for low-skilled workers, students, and retirees. And it was also a way of combating unemployment, which was pretty high in the early 2000s. But as is often the case with government programs, there were also unseen side effects. One of them being that mini jobs are very attractive to employers because they are exempt from income tax and social security contributions, with employers just paying a flat rate tax. Then there is the rise of Zeitarbeit, which became really popular as a way of providing flexibility for countries during economic uncertainty. And it's also helped to reduce labor costs by employing temporary staff without long-term contracts. And one of the reasons this new market has grown in popularity is that Germany's semi-socialist system can no longer fund jobs for life. The gig economy has contributed to a growing divide, and there are stable jobs which offer permanent contracts, unbefristete Verträge. The workers are protected by strong labor laws, unions, and social benefits, But there are then also this whole subsection of people that have these so-called precarious jobs. So workers in mini jobs, in Zeitarbeit, or the gig-based economy, which they just generally receive lower pay, very limited benefits. They don't get healthcare, pension, unemployment insurance, and job insecurity is just weaker. There are weaker protections, and this all has social consequences. So remember, I started this with austerity measures and the immigration crisis, and the rise of precarious employment has exacerbated income inequality and job insecurity. And critics argue that it undermines Germany's traditionally strong social market economy, creating what some are calling a working poor class. So with these feelings of comparative wealth inequality, as is so often the case, the frustrations are being leveled at immigrants and asylum seekers, and mass immigration tends to hit the poorest the hardest, which is why anti-immigration sentiment is higher in poorer areas of Germany. Okay, so that was a lot of information. You might then ask the question, why do I choose to stay and why would anyone want to move here? Well, the problem is when focusing on wide-ranging macro trends, it often really doesn't hold actually that much relevance for you as an individual. Yes, the job market in general might be tough, but as always the case, certain sectors are dying and certain sectors are thriving. Highly skilled workers are very much in demand. According to the German Chamber of Industry and Commerce, sectors like engineering, IT, and healthcare are consistently facing talent shortages, and so this creates opportunities for skilled workers, particularly those from abroad. So Germany, in many ways, does need immigrants to sustain its current system. And also on a more positive note, according to the German Institute for Economic Research, the number of mini jobs has actually declined in recent years. Now, I have covered the benefits of living here in Germany before, and it's safe to say that Germany has so much to offer in terms of history and culture and nature and the quality of life. The culture is just less consumerist, it's less work obsessed and more meaning driven than either the US or the UK. And so what does it feel like to live in Germany right now? It's difficult for me to give a short answer to that, which is why this video has been so long. I think the most accurate way I can describe this is that it feels uncertain. I don't know which way the political winds will blow in a year's time. I don't know if whole sectors will be automated and replaced by robots. On a personal level, I do see an increase in homelessness, in beggars, in drug addicts in the major German cities. It's very difficult to take the subway in Frankfurt without coming into contact with homeless people. I myself do not feel threatened or intimidated by this anti-immigration attitude because I can pass for German. I look German and people can't always work out my accent. But if you come from the Middle East or Africa or South America, then you might have a different experience. The cities do feel like they are struggling to cope with the current situation. But at the same time, as I just said, there are many opportunities here. And so that's why people still keep coming here, and they will continue to come here unless Germany makes significant legal changes to immigration and how people get set up here. I understand that this is my own personal experience and it will be different for those coming from the Middle East or from India or Brazil. In times of uncertainty and economic instability, immigrants and social outgroups have historically always been the first to blame. And it's really maddening that however much progress we make technologically, psychologically, we are still very much the same animal we were in the Middle Ages. It is important to be informed and to stay in touch, but much of what's reported does not reflect the normal day-to-day life of the average citizen. And so if you don't watch the news, life goes on as before, and you realize it's actually pretty good. So whenever I feel worried or anxious about where the world is going, I find it most helpful to view life through a personal, individual lens. Stop watching the news, leave the geopolitics aside, stay away from sensationalized topics, focus on what you can change in your own life. Which relationships can you nurture? Who can you help? What can you do to improve your own life and the handful of people closest to you? Germany has given me so much, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And so while there are, of course, many challenges ahead, I am confident that we will be able to navigate them effectively. Don't forget to limit your screen time, get outside, and just unplug from the craziness that is life online. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.